All right, I'll kind of start off on the middle. All right. We are back here with the Okali, all four of us. Now that school's in person, we all get to be here in Gallagher to cover the Cowgirls. Tonight, Wednesday night, here in Stillwater, the Cowgirls lost to Baylor. Final score, 77-58. Guys, this one, Baylor is great, and this game, Baylor kind of dominated from, I thought, a little bit start to finish.
Yeah, Sam, I know why you had to look at your phone there, because it wasn't like a super memorable score, right? Baylor a lot, the Cowgirls a little, which has been a kind of the same reality for the last 5 or so years here. The last time the Cowgirls beat Baylor was 2015, so we did not see history tonight. But we did see some pretty slow starts from the offenses to begin both halves.
Yeah, that's something that Coach Littell loves talking about every time almost that we've talked to him. He stresses how important it is to start the first half and to start the second half. And the Cowgirls started slow in both. In the first half, in the first 5 minutes, they only scored 2 points, and then in the first 5 minutes of the second half, they scored 0. So I mean, it was 2 points over a 10-minute span if you combine the two, and that's just unacceptable if you want to beat the best team in the Big 12.
Yeah, and one thing that everybody has to know is that the Cowgirls went on a 7-0 run right before the 14-0 run that spanned the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. And I mean, it's one thing to give up a 14-0 run, but to have a run to make it competitive again and then give up the 14-0 run, it kind of felt like almost like the dagger in this game. And when you lose, when that happens, there's not a whole lot you can do, and I kind of thought that's what happened to the Cowgirls today.
Yeah, I thought there were kind of 2 big points in the game. The first one was, right after tip-off, the Cowgirls got off to a 0 of 8 shooting. No one had, that was the number, 0 of 8. And also, I think Taylor Collins missed a free throw in there, and, that didn't happen super often. So they got down 8-2. Baylor would kind of started off cold, too. Otherwise, this game could have been quite different a little bit. But, yeah, that run to kind of cement the early lead for Baylor, then like you said, Jacob, that the 14-0 run that Baylor went on after the Cowgirls had gotten a little bit of run of their own, and I think cut it to 10, then Baylor went on a big run that kind of spanned both halves a little bit. So that was, I don't know, like you said, kind of the crushing blow or the nail in the coffin a little bit was that run right there. And then Baylor really put it away like they've been doing a lot of teams. Baylor is preeminently one of the top teams in the conference, and the Cowgirls, guys, I guess kind of looking big picture, the Cowgirls started 5-0 in conference play, and now they've dropped 3 in a row. And the 3 losses looked maybe a little different, right? Because Iowa State, that game was 90-80, and the Cowgirls, that there wasn't that much offense here today. But the West Virginia game, Coach Littell said he wasn't super happy with how his team played, and he was happy, or kind of happy with how his team played in Iowa State. But in this game, I guess they just got a little bit of the Baylor treatment. What do you guys think about this team kind of in terms of conference standings going forward?
Well, I think it's interesting that the Cowgirls had a different approach to this game. I think they knew Baylor was going to be a challenge unlike any other they'd faced this season. Guys, we saw substitutions rapid fire, right? As the ball was tipped off, Lauren Fields was sitting on the baseline waiting to check in, which is something I don't think any of us have really ever seen a whole lot covering basketball. So I think the Cowgirls knew coming into this game that the Baylor Bears were going to be on a whole nother level, trying to get as many fresh bodies as they could in there. And I think Baylor, it's going to be them duking out with Iowa State at the top of the Big 12 standings in my eyes.
Yeah, so one stat that I picked up on, there was actually the same amount of substitutions in the first 5 minutes as total points in the game. So the Cowgirls put out 5 substitutions in the first 5 minutes, and the score was 3-2 after about 4.5 minutes, I believe it was. So,
So maybe the Cowgirls just need to substitute 90 times a game.
Yeah, substitute 90 times a game. Maybe they'll be up by 1 by the end of it.
Guys, any kind of lasting thoughts for maybe this game or something that stuck out that Coach Tell said going forward, for kind of the focus of this team and how they can get back, 3-game slide after a 5-game win streak, that can maybe kind of rattle a young team a little bit. Any thoughts on what the Cowgirls had to say in the postgame about, kind of the mentality that the team has to adopt?
Well, I think one thing that we have to look at is that just how quicker the pace was in this game. I felt like the Cowgirls didn't get a whole lot of longer possessions, and they had to settle for quicker shots, and that wasn't the formula to success today, and they really never overcame that problem. And so, looking at it from a more than just this game perspective, the Cowgirls need to find that rhythm back that they've had in the opening 5 games of conference play, because it looks kind of like they've lost it at this point. And you know, the worst thing you can do is go into another game with no confidence because you've lost that rhythm. So we'll definitely see how they play against Kansas State with that being in mind.
I think it's also important to note that, you know, we take for granted, but Natasha Mack was great tonight. 21 points, I think 6 boards, which we've seen her, you know, with some crazy number of rebounds. Not quite that high today, but Natasha Mack was great going up against Baylor, who has perennially, you know, WNBA players, and I think there were 2 WNBA players easily on the court tonight in Natasha Mack and Dee Dee Richards of Baylor, you know, who Coach Attell said was like the best
defensive player in the country.
Yeah, best defender in the league in his eyes. So I think Mack held her own against the top of the top. Guys, we could see Dee Dee Richards and Natasha Mack go face to face again. You know, even outside of this college basketball. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing I kind of wanted to touch on is just that the fact that I don't think Oklahoma State is going to come out and start that slow again. I think kind of with how much Coach Littell stresses this to the girls and even stresses this to the members of the media, that they need to be starting strong. And I think that next game they're going to come out strong. And also I feel like at the beginning of the game, what kind of messed the Cowgirls up is I feel like they were relying on Mack too much in a way. Even though she is the best player on the team, they were forcing entry passes. The guard on the baseline was just waiting for that guard to dump it down to Mack, and she'd just jump right in there and steal the pass. So I think in a way the Cowgirls were rattled, just as Mack even said that they were intimidated that it was Baylor. So I think coming in with a fresh start, not having to play the Baylor Lady Bears, is going to be good for the Cowgirls.
Yeah, that's losses tend to accumulate when you do play the Baylor Lady Bears. You know, that's, I guess, called the Baylor effect or the Mulkey effect there. Well, that's something certainly to watch for in the next game against K-State. Coach Littell said it's a big game for the team, so we'll get to see kind of what start they get off to, and I guess especially shooting start, see how that works and see if they can kind of stop this now 3-game skid that it's morphed into. All right, guys, for the Ocali, I'm Sam Hutchens, joined by Jacob Sturm, Noah Weber, and Ben Hutchens. We're bringing you Cowgirl coverage all season long, and looking forward to the next game.
Good work.
we'll see.
Cameraman.